Okay, so here's this is a BS message, but it'll give you the idea. Number 1, routine. Victor Alpha 7, Mike Papa Golf 7. Gabriola, I spell, Golf Alpha Bravo. Romeo India Oscar Lima Alpha. Initials Bravo Charlie. October 1-6. To Paul, I spell Papa Alpha Uniform Lima. Giffin, I spell Golf India Foxtrot, Foxtrot India November. Figures 1740 Tashtigo, I spell Tango Alpha Sierra Hotel Tango Echo Golf Oscar. Crescent, Gabriola Island, initial Bravo Charlie. Mixed group, Victor Oscar Romeo 1 X-ray 5. Phone figures 250-247-7965. Great.
Go ahead.
Congratulations on your lottery win. Initial X-ray, figures 7-3. Great.
Go ahead.
Signed Jean-Michel, I spell Juliet Echo Alpha November. Mike India Charlie Hotel Echo Lima. Hanssens, I spell Hotel Alpha November. Sierra Sierra Echo November Sierra. Amateur call Victor Alpha 7. Victor Alpha 7 Charlie India Papa.
Roger, the number. Now I can do it one of two ways. I can say I'm in receipt of your number, or I can say Roger, which is the code for acknowledgement, and then I give them the number back. So I forget, Paul, what was your number?
1.
Okay, Roger, what? Or I'm in receipt of your message number 1. You can do either way.
Okay. Anybody got any questions?
What is the procedure if you misspeak?
I say again.
You don't say error or correction or anything like that?
No, usually when somebody says I say again, you know they've screwed up.
Do not use the word repeat.
Yeah, don't use repeat.
That's a military term for artillery. Means send another volley.
Now, before we break into groups here, there's 2 things that I'm going to throw on the board here that that's the first one. If you really want to bum up yourself and the poor guy that's trying to receive your message, this is the way to do it. So the way that you avoid the confusion is your message reads 49 degrees, 59 minutes, 3. These figures just to make it easier. 3 seconds north, and 1 or 2, 4 degrees, 1 minutes, 7 seconds west. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 14 words. Okay? Remember at the start, I said efficiency and accuracy. I guarantee you, if you try to send it using this, you will be repeating yourself until you're blue in the face. because the person at the other end isn't going to know how to write it on the spaces. So if you went figures 49 degrees, figures 59 minutes, figure 3 seconds north, figures 124 degrees. You see how I'm leaving a space in there? So the person realizes that these are words. Okay? Now, where you can cheat a little bit is if you're working with GSAR or Coursera. I'm going to get this wrong, but you'll get to it. For UTM, how many do I need for?
6.
6 and 7, right?
Yeah, so I don't want to do You need a 10U or 9U at the front of the.
Okay, just to make it easier, if you're working with ground search and rescue, they use UTMs, which is Universal
Transverse Mercator.
Trend. It's a position. It's a fancy way of doing 49, whatever. You can get away with, in the text of your message, either before you do this or after, say Universal or Uniform Tango Mike, mixed group, 12764 November. Mixed group, 1236789 West, or whiskey. Okay? So that's 3 words. You need to break it up because the guy at the other end has absolutely no idea what's coming at him. So if you break it up like that, if you wanted to stick UTM down here, you could do it. You would just do mixed group, say this, mixed group, say this, and then say letter group, Uniform Tango Mike. Okay? I'm getting a couple of deer in the headlights here.
Well, the other confusing thing too is now, of course, we have a number of datum systems now too, so we can have decimal in it, so it could be like
Well,
49 degrees and then decimal.
now, see, that's why you run into problems.
It could actually be easier.
So these are things when you're doing your training that you need to work out amongst yourselves so that you know how you're doing it. And if you're calling us into 9, as long as you follow the protocols, like saying mixed group or figures, we'll get it. Okay? But you gotta know, you gotta be comfortable with yourself before you send it down to me and expect me to do something. Okay? All right. So, what we're going to do here is, this will actually work out. Can you write a message out, please? And could you write a message out? Try and keep it something similar to what you would do in the EOC. And I'm not trying to set anybody up, well, actually I am, but I'm not trying to set anybody up.
In the message you said is X-ray or the period count is
It's a word, yep, it counts. Yep.
because I thought when you said that counted 8, you said 7 at the beginning.
I'm sorry?
I thought I counted 8 things that you said, and at the top of it you said 7.
On the one I sent?
That's what I thought.
there's an example of why before you receive a message, you ask a question if you're not sure. Each line has 5 words. Okay. Yes, sir?
When you say figures or mixed group,
Yep.
presumably those do not count as words in the radiogram, or do they?
Yes, they are. They're part of, if you look at this one, I said the check was 7. So initial X-ray, figures 7-3. So they count. When they're in the body of the message, they count. When you're doing your address and stuff, they don't count.
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay?
Just another thing, if you're going to send a radio frequency, say 146, we say 146.666, you would say figures 146 and the decimal is Romeo. Okay, so you say Romeo in the place of the decimal.
And why Romeo?
Once you've done it a couple of
Yeah,
times,
see,
like me standing up here throwing all this at you,
It-
it's
you're
like
basically,
you're going, why are we doing all this? Once you get into the room
yeah,
and you start sending the messages, our group in Nanaimo, a lot of times when we do a simulated test, we tell them, there's no power, there's no computers, you've got to send it by voice. And we can do 100 messages an hour, which might not seem a lot, but when you think about it, are you going to have 100 messages coming out of your EOC in an hour? I don't think so. Right? The other thing to remember is whenever you write a message, be it digital or this way, always remember, especially on the digital side, that in some point in time, that message may have to go by voice. So you need to do it properly. If you get this part down, you'll find the digital thing will just fall into place and it will become second nature. Okay, how are you guys doing? Okay, so we've made contact between the 2
We've done this
stations.
preamble already.
So,
Okay.
so you've already made contact with the other station, and now this gentleman is going to send a message. Go ahead.
Number 2, precedence, routine.
Okay. Don't say the top line, just say routine. So the next thing you're going to say is,
You wanted me to say number.
right, because that's telling me you're now starting to send me a message.
Number 2, routine. Station of origin, because
Don't say that.
taking the eject, so.
We'll get that after. Skip that. Just skip right over it and just read what's written here.
Okay, from the top, number 2, routine. Victor, Echo, 7, Bravo, Hotel, Oscar. 4, Campbell River, I spell. Charlie, Alpha, Mike, Papa, Bravo, Echo, Lima, Lima. Romeo, India, Victor, Echo, Romeo. Numbers, 1,
Figures.
figures, 1905. Figures, 1710. Paul Giffin, I spell, Papa, Alpha, uniform, Lima. Golf, India, Foxtrot, Foxtrot, India, November. Gabriola Island, I spell, Golf, Alpha, Bravo, Romeo, India, Oscar, Lima, Alpha, India, Sierra, Lima, Alpha, November, Delta. Numbers, telephone numbers,
Phone figures.
phone figures. 2, 5, 0, 9, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, break.
Anybody, any questions? Everybody happy? Go ahead.
I don't say message or anything like that, just
No,
straight.
I'll say, go ahead. I'll say,
Okay.
go with text.
Require receipts for refund. Break.
Stop right there. How many got that? Remember, when you're sending a message, you've got to send it at a pace that allows somebody at the other end to write it. So you did fine up here, but then you just smoked everybody here. So go slow through the text.
I say again, require receipts for refund. Break.
Go with signature.
Steve Siporkowski. I spell Sierra, Tango, Echo, Victor, Echo. Sierra, India, Echo, Romeo, Zulu, Papa.
Uniform.
Uniform, Tango, Oscar, Whiskey, Sierra, Kilo, India. Numbers 2, 6, 1, Bravo, Larwood Street.
No.
I spell Lima, Alpha, Romeo, Whiskey, Oscar, Oscar, Delta, Sierra, Tango, Romeo, Echo, Echo, Tango.
Yep.
Campbell River. I spell Charlie, Alpha, Mike, Papa, Bravo, Echo, Lima, Lima, Romeo, India, Victor, Echo, Romeo, Bravo, Charlie. Numbers, no, this is not numbers, it's
Mixed
mixed. Mixed group. Victor, 9, Whiskey, 6, Juliet, Romeo. Phone numbers, 2, 5, 0, 9, 2, 3, 2, 5, 0, 0.
Okay. And then you would say, and then no more.
End and no more.
And then I would say, I'm in receipt of your message too. So now that message is mine. Okay? Really good. Have you ever done this before?
Actually, once with Sean, we were just fooling around.
Okay. It's pretty good for a first time. The only thing I'm going to suggest, and this is hard when you're training, but if you spell Campbell River up here, you really need to spell it down there.
You don't, or you do?
I would. If it was me, I would.
Okay, how do you transmit BC?
Initial Bravo Charlie.
Initial.
Okay?
So I would have had to have called back at the beginning of the address. I got confused because I was looking for a position and
That's what we're gonna come to.
it wasn't something that I expected, so, and then I waited until the break, I would wait till the break.
Break, and then say, you need a fill for whatever it is position, okay? Now realistically, if you're working in the EOC and you're sending a message to Victoria, which you will be before the end of the night, the address is going to be Director Victoria Preoc, period. Okay? And the signature, again, on what you guys work out with Sean, is going to be whatever. The reason we're doing it this way is if you can do it this way with all this extra stuff in it, you can easily send a message from the EOC. What you might find yourself is doing this kind of stuff if you're at a reception center. And that's why you need to know this.
So where I got stuck is, and then he said 261 up here, I assumed it was a phone number, so I started thinking it was a phone number, I guess.
Well, that's why you say phone figures or telephone number. You prefix the phone figures.
So up here, I didn't hear that, okay, that's just.
But at the end of the day, you got it all, right?
Well, I'll know, down here, I made a mistake. I got Steve and then I went,
The B is what threw you.
well, when you know the 261, I had it down here as a phone number. That's where I started.
Okay.
And I started looking.
If I was sending that address, I would say mixed group 261 Bravo, right? Rather than 261B, okay? And that's why I say, you gotta practice this stuff. We can't just sit here tonight and then not do it.
We need a cheat sheet for the pro words.
If you do it regularly, it's amazing. It just becomes second nature. And I'll tell you, my wife is from the States and we go to Florida in the winter, and I'm part of the Aries group in St. Lucie County, Florida. And I'm telling you, you want to see this stuff handled, because those guys practice it all the time. They've got hurricanes, they've got a nuclear reactor in their area of responsibility, they've got an EOC with 200 seats in it. So to be perfectly blunt, there's no time to screw around. And when those guys start passing traffic, it is beauty to watch. And that part of the problem we have is we never get used, right? But you know, when we do get called, we're going to be past the oh shit point. We're going to be in it up to our ears. So it's incumbent upon us, if we're telling the community that we can do this, that in fact we can do it. And this is, the reason I use the perks forms is because that's what you're going to be using in the EOC, and you can adapt a perks form to make it a welfare message. So you don't need two separate forms, right? Again, you're familiar with it. Okay, so
These two checks over here.
those are for what theoretically, and this again is what you have to work out with Sean, is theoretically when these come out, they have 3 copies. You know the old NCR paper with 3 copies? So I don't know what you're using here. So if you had 3 copies, one would be the originator, one would go to the comms unit, which is in logistics, and one would go to the documentation unit. Today, in the real world, in my experience, has anybody been involved in a major? Okay. The short story is, when there's a major event, the search manager or the director of the EOC will declare an operational period. It can be anywhere from 2 minutes to 12 hours. What we generally do in the NIMA, or what our SOP is we will work within their operational period, but we will establish an 8-hour, or however long the volunteers can work in the radio room for our operational period. And then all of the messages go into a folder. So for example, if you're in an EOC and it's an 8-hour operational period, at the end of 8 hours, somebody from documentation comes along and picks up all your paper, and it goes into a folder, and then it becomes part of a master file for that event. So that's where these end up. There's a special folder for communications, and these messages end up in that folder. So, again, these forms are printed for the entire province. So in my experience, those three things are, and again, the province takes the position that they will not, under the Emergency Program Act, it is up to the local jurisdiction to have an emergency plan, and part of that plan must include communications. So the province isn't coming in to tell Campbell River how to do it. The only thing the province is telling Campbell River is that they have to have it. How you guys set it up with Sean, it's your house, it's your bailiwick, that's the way you do it.
At the end of the operational period, when all the forms picked up, is the log picked up as well?
They were, but when I was in the last one that I was involved in, it worked out that it was a search, so due to the terrain and a whole bunch of reasons, they didn't work after dark. So the operational period ended at darkness when all the teams were in, all the aircraft were down and everything, and then they came around and collected it.
If it continued?
If it continues, what I did, my radio room was in a bread truck, literally, in a bread truck. And the guys put a tarp over the windshield for me, and I got stickies. And I had a sticky for each search team, each airplane, each helicopter, and at the end of the night when they came to collect the stuff, I just took my last message number and it was the top sticky. And the next day I just picked up.
From that number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing that people don't, when we have a big disaster, the high-speed, rapid movement of people and equipment and things is going to occur at site command. The EOC is the forward-thinking group, not the response group. So the EOC is hearing from the fire chief, the Quinson's going to flood, we're short 50,000 sandbags. We've got enough to get us through tonight, but we're going to need more tomorrow. It's the EOC that comes up with the next 50,000 sandbags. So if you walk into an EOC that's frantic and going at 100 miles an hour, I would respectfully suggest there's a problem in the EOC. It's not to say there's not stress, and it's not to say you sit around and drink coffee and twiddle thumbs. But the idea is the EOC is responsible for support of the command, the site command, and getting what site command needs. So it tends to move a little slower. And there's not that hurried, adrenaline rush that the fire guys have or the ambulance guys have. So it's not that hectic. Now realistically in Nanaimo, what we do is on all our stations. First of all our stations have message numbers assigned to them. So if I go to a reception center, I know what the starting message number is for that reception center. Within that block of numbers, we have taken a portion of them, and those are our digital message numbers. So again, I go into a reception center, I know what my voice message numbers are, I know what my digital message numbers are. We keep the logs in the reception center, but in addition to that, we have a separate piece of paper so that we can keep track of the message numbers that are sent. We have one column for the voice messages, and then we have another column for the digital message. So if it's the end of an operational period and everything's collected, and I come in to relieve you, I can pick up this piece of paper and see what your last voice message number was and what your last digital message number was. And that's just within our group so that we maintain continuity.
When you're dealing with this kind of stuff, and when Paul was saying about EOC things, you're not on the ground, you're not in the adrenaline rush thing, is you take your time. The most important thing is get the message out accurate and to write it properly so that later on, if you need to, people can read it again. And there's no use sending bad traffic out because it's better to do everything out. So when you're not happy with the other operator is going too fast, and this happens all the time, and you'll see it when you practice amongst yourselves. The first couple of times you'll be sending traffic at 100 miles an hour, and it's way too fast for the operator that's receiving it on the other side. Just ask him to either to slow down, or you'll ask him to say again, and he'll get the idea that he's going too fast.
And realistically, in all the classes that we taught, for a first time, aside from when you smoke that line out, your speed was really good for somebody who hasn't been involved in it. So that's what you want. Okay, what we're going to do here, has everybody got a blank message form? If you don't, we'll get you one. And I would like everyone to write a message. The front group, I'll ask you to write an EOC message as if you were designated to review all outgoing messages. That person is designated by the director of the EOC. So before we even see a message, it will be X'd. So we know it's okay. That's for outgoing messages. For incoming messages, all incoming messages go to the director of the EOC, because he needs to know what's coming in. If he reads a message, it's up to him what he does with the message. That's not our problem. But our problem is we have to be able to say, that went to the director. Okay? So the part of the problem is we don't have enough events here, which is a good thing. The bad thing is we, from the ham radio side, from the EOC side, and probably most important, from the general public, have no idea how to react. Again, I go to Florida. Those people get hurricanes every year. They know what to do. They know where to get the plywood to board up the windows, right? We don't have that. So it makes it a lot harder for us. The other thing that is a bit of an interesting note from an ENBC side of things, there's basically two British Columbias. One British Columbia goes from the Coast Mountains to the west. And in that area, everybody thinks earthquake. And after the last couple of summers, maybe fire. Okay? You go over the mountains east of Hope, and they have two things they worry about: flooding and fire. Well, the response to an earthquake is a hell of a lot different than a response from a flood. So these are the things that have to jockey about. What doesn't change is the information still needs to be passed. Okay, so everybody's got a message? Would you please give your message to the gentleman behind you and take his message? And would you please give your message to Harry and take his message? Okay, now if I could get, I think this is going to work. If it gets too hot or whatever, we'll figure something else out. The four guys at the back of the table, back table, could you please go into that office with Jean-Michel? And Amanda, if you could stay out here with this group, please.
I'm going to turn off the recording so I don't.
All the messages went through. Some didn't come out quite exactly as they went in, but hey, we got it fixed. A couple of things. These are examples, just in the group of four that stayed out here, of why you need to use phonetics. Right? The message was to John. The message was to Lily Thompson. Two different ways to spell Cedar Street. How is it spelt in your jurisdiction? This one, I'm sorry I can't explain, but people just seem, Toby and Tony just, they don't compute either way. Kathy and Kathy. Now those are just in the 4 messages from the front group. So you can imagine if you're slinging 100 messages around, you've got to know your phonetic alphabet and you've got to use it. Okay? The other thing is, if you saw I'm just going to pick somebody. If you saw this written, what date is it?
That's a good question. Day,
Well, what do you
day,
think?
month, or, yeah, is it 4th day, 5th month?
Is it the 4th of May? Or is it April 5th? Okay. Same with this one. Well, this one you can pretty well sort out because we don't have 14 months yet. But please say the month. Okay, it's not 14 or 1403. It's March 14th. Say the month. Okay. Okay, this evening we just kind of scratched the surface on traffic handling. There's a lot of stuff that we did not cover. One obvious one was the XH box on the radiogram. Realistically, from the EOC, you would not be using it. From routine welfare traffic, you may use it. So I encourage you to go to this website. And on that website, if you scroll down about halfway down, you will see traffic, National Traffic System.
What's after G?
Victor Echo 7 Golf November.ca. The other thing that I will mention is on that website, you will see RRI, and I think I mentioned it at the start, Radio Relay International. It's all the same stuff. Their forms might be a little different. That shouldn't affect you at all. These are the forms you're more than likely going to be using. The last thing is, for those that have HF, 80 meters, 3716 at 0230 Zulu, and I put Zulu on here because we're going to be changing time here in the next couple of weeks. There is the BC Yukon traffic net, and that net basically handles all the formal traffic within the province of British Columbia and the Yukon. I can't guarantee that you will hear traffic every night on that net, but I can pretty well guarantee if you listen to that net on the 1st, the 2nd, or the 3rd of each month, you will hear traffic. And what you will hear is stations coming in with 2 messages. The first is SAR, Station Activity Report, and that reports into the section traffic manager the number of messages sent, received, and delivered by the individual station. The second thing you will hear is Papa Sierra Hotel Romeo Public Service Honor Roll. If you go and query Public Service Honor Roll on Google, it'll give you the whole spiel of what it is. But basically, it deals with the number of nets the station's checked into, the number of messages they've dealt with, any public service work they've done, any emergency work they've done, any actual call-outs, that kind of stuff. So you'll hear numbers. Not so much that you need to understand it, but you'll hear how the traffic is sent. So if you want to do that, that's available. You can listen every night, but I can't tell you what night there's going to be traffic and what night there isn't. It might be interesting too to listen to because we got a bozo who's doing malicious interference, and if we find him, search and rescue might be busy. That's all I'm going to say.
But not too busy.
The other thing is, if you do check into that site, make sure that you use your phonetic call sign.
Yeah.
Do
If you
not
don't,
say, do not say VA7 CIP. You're not going to be very welcome down there.
Yeah.
Use your phonetic call sign.
the fellow that runs that net, it's a friend of mine, so I can say this, he's anal retentive with respect to traffic handling and radio procedure on the net. That net is one of only 3 in the province that is recognized as an NTS net, and he runs a pretty tight ship. So, just a little bit of a heads up for you. I mean, he won't rip your lips and embarrass you in front of everybody, but he'll make it perfectly clear that he wants to hear phonetics.
But it sounds like it would just be a good one to listen to, just to listen to the habit.
And you can check in, because he does check in. What he does, they check the whole province and Yukon. So he'll ask for stations in Campbell River. And recommend highly that you listen. And then when you feel comfortable, just check in using your call sign phonetically. And he'll acknowledge you and simply say no traffic. And you should listen to it, because as Paul said, there is traffic on that. And here's the other tip. Have these forms, copies ready, and when you hear the traffic, write it down. The more you hear it, the better you'll get at it. We do it all the time.
If you check in, if you're inclined to check in, you don't be embarrassed to say, I'm new to traffic handling and I'm with the Campbell River, whatever your formal name for your
Emergency
group is,
communications team.
so that he knows. If he knows you're involved in emergency traffic handling and you're new to it, he'll cut you 3 miles worth of slack. Okay? The idea is not to scare people away, the idea is to get everybody on the same page. And God forbid, if that ever happens, I'll be out of work. Has anybody got any questions?
I just want to thank you very much, both of you, for coming out here and